We had little Rolodex machines that was our CRM. But there's a lot of service robots around right now that do mop floors, they clean bathrooms. Now companies aren't making as many prints as they used to. Almost all of the Japanese companies jumped into the marketplace. 500 million robots in the workforce. There's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a tremendous amount of jobs that are going to be created that are going to have to support that workforce. So we came up with this thing. It's called 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes per employee a day. Our idea is to bring robots to the copier channel.
Hi, Art host. Thanks for joining me on the Getting Started podcast. Really happy to have you here to talk about office technology and print and copying. I'm going to admit it's not the industry I actually know too much about, and I feel like there's a couple people out there that could probably say the same. So I'm really look forward to learning a lot about that industry today from you today. You're actually one of the newer people I've ever met, so I don't have too much I can actually share about what you do. I just know you've been doing it for quite some time, and you've had a lot to share about me the few times we have met and talked. But as far as an introduction, I kind of want to let you introduce yourself and tell us what you've been your companies. I believe you're with Stratic Systems as well as Print for Pay Hotel. It's kind of like your own company. And what are you doing there? And how did you get all started with what you're up to?
Sure. And I appreciate the invite and welcome to your show. I appreciate it. Let's see, where do I start? 45 years ago, I answered an advertisement to become a copy machine technician. All right. So
Hold on. What is that?
Copy
Advertisement for
machine
a job?
technician.
No, I'm saying advertisement for a job opening. I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
The year was 1980. There weren't many jobs around. I was 23 years old, was not working at the time, and I needed to get a job. So I answered this ad to be a copy machine repair training we went to a school and they taught you how to repair copy machines. So that course was about, I think, 16 weeks or maybe a little bit longer. And they had about 10 or 12 people there. They all got us into all the electronics on how to fix a copy machine, what the process of making a copy or making a print is. And that was before the age of laser printers, inkjet printers. So basically it was a machine that just made copies. You put an original on the glass. You tell it, I want X amount of copies, and the machine would make it. At the time, 1980, we were just transferring from what they call electrostatic, not even electrostatic, they called it E-stat technology. So what they mean with E-stat technology is basically you needed charged paper and charged iron toner, iron filings, which is toner, to make it adhere to the paper. When I got into the industry, they were just transferring over to bond paper. So bond paper means plain paper. And that was pretty exciting in our industry, that you could actually put plain paper in a copy machine and you could make prints. So I went to school, learned everything I had to learn. They actually got everybody a job coming out of that school because it was a very, very hot industry. Because the copier business, if you're not aware of it, the patent was developed by Xerox or Haloid back in 1937 by Chester Carlson. So by the early 70s, the patent had expired on xerography. At that point in time, almost all of the Japanese companies jumped into the marketplace. Companies like you've probably heard of before, Ricoh, they do cameras. Canon, they do cameras. Konica Minolta or Konica did cameras. Minolta did cameras. And there was a bunch of other players that actually joined the industry. So the need for technicians was out there. And so schools popped up here and there to train people how to repair copy machines. So I got a job. And I was at the job for about 3 months. They brought me in for a review and they told me I'm doing a great job of taking machines apart. However, not so good at putting them back together. We're going to have to lay you off. All right. So it was interesting. I had my run 3 months. What do I do now? In 1880, there wasn't a lot of business, right? There wasn't a lot of companies hiring. That's when interest rates were 18 to 20% interest.
Actually, what did it take to buy one of those machines? Was it like bigger, large corporations, only people that had it, or were they able to get into the
So
small
at that
business
time,
too?
it was almost every company
Okay.
needed a copy machine. That was part of their workflow or their process. They had to make copies of invoices, bill of ladings, purchase orders, because back in 1980, and for quite a few years thereafter, everything was a paper-based process. So in order to the workflows were all about making copies to distribute them to other people in your organization.
Kind of funny. So the industry is able to put them together so fast, faster than theoretically the people to take them apart and put them back together to service them. It's at least
Right,
not how it sounds like. It moved really fast and developed fast.
right. So funny story, as I was getting laid off, the owner, I was in his office. The owner reached into his pocket, pulled out a wad of bills, $100 bills. So it was kind of like, it was interesting. It was more about, it almost like he was tempting me. But he asked me, he goes, listen, what would you rather do? Would you rather finish out the week to earn this money? Or would you rather try and talk me out of it?
Like out of laying you off or out of that money.
Well, if I was able to talk him out of the money, he would give me the money and probably still lay me off. So for
But
what
you'd have a
seemed
future as
like
a sales job.
30 minutes, I wasn't able to talk him out of his money, but he did offer me a job selling copiers.
Wait, so it went from service to sales.
I went from service to sales, so I know the entire process. And I've been in that sales industry for 45 years now. In 1986, broke away. I started out my own company with a couple of friends. We ran that company in Monmouth County until 1998. At that time, we all got married. We all brought our wives in to work with us, and things just didn't work out. So in 1998, I sold my shares and then just went to work for another dealer selling copy machines and have pretty much been with that same organization since 1998. So that's my history, how I got started in the copier business and what transferred over those years.
Sounds like actually like you got a little lucky too by that, boss repurposing you into sales rather than just saying, buy and go somewhere else.
I
That could
got
have been a
very lucky.
huge changing point, it sounds like, in that story.
Yeah, it would have been that. And if I didn't give me the job, it probably would have been having to enlist in the army
Mhm.
because there weren't too many other options at that point in time.
Yeah. Actually, it's, the story that I came across just yesterday. Google had laid off a lot of their AI training people for making AI, more human and more quality assurance and such. And they, laid them off. And a lot of the stories I'm hearing, or a lot of the people that are criticizing it, are saying they need to repurpose these people because they're so well trained now in this high demand area where there's not as many, people, personnel that are trained on it, and they shouldn't just let them go out the door. They should be repurposing them into something else, maybe a sales opportunity or maybe some other consulting gig, especially given how much demand right now there can be in the large enterprise for AI consultants. Apparently, some are getting paid $900 an hour, which almost can't even comprehend that you can bring that sort of value in, especially when MIT is saying that 95% of AI pilots have not generated any revenue. So, what are they getting paid for? But we'll see what happens later in that. But yeah, that's really cool that you were able to, or that boss that was able to transition you into the sales role, and then that led to Strategic Systems and Print for Pay Hotel. And what's the difference between the two? Is Print for Pay just kind of
So Print for Pay Hotel is a website that I developed in 1920, and I think it was 2002. I developed it. And the reason I developed it is because the web was just, I think the web started, in 98 or something like that.
mhm,
And the web was getting big. And I developed a forums based community, somewhat like, Reddit or Discord, what people use today. Well, back then, a lot of people were just using forums to share information. So our industry back then was a very closed industry. A lot of dealers didn't communicate with other dealers. A lot of manufacturers didn't communicate with other manufacturers. And a lot of salespeople weren't able to communicate with other salespeople. So as a salesperson or maybe a technician, as a sales manager, you only in your own little microcosm, your own little world, right? And
Mhm.
you didn't know a lot what was going around beside you. There were some industry rags that went out to people, but a lot of times those rags just went to dealer owners. Once a year, there was a national show. But again, dealer owners were the ones who basically were going to those types of shows where you would see the new technology. And I saw a need for, many of the clients I'm seeing are having questions and I don't know the answers. And I know there's other people out there that would know those answers. So I started a forums based community and I started pulling from people I met. And at the time, Rico had a site, an intranet site where they started this internet where all people selling Rico could talk to Rico. And in that time frame, they would always list their email address. So as time went on, I was copying those email addresses. And sometimes we would talk outside of the forums and we would email each other, right? So at some point in time, we would comment about how machines would work, if they worked, if they didn't work. We would share information. And I kind of pissed off Rico about a machine that wasn't working properly, and they pretty much me off of their site because they weren't happy with what I
Mhm.
was saying. And at that point in time, I said, okay, I can do this better than they can. 20 years later, Rico doesn't have an intranet site where technicians can talk to each other or share information. And I've got a site that's got more than 3,000 members. The site's still running after 20 years, and we still share information about how we can help our clients, what type of solutions on out there, what works, what doesn't work. Then about 10 years ago, I was able to actually add to my site. I was actually able to add banner ads for other companies that play in our industry. So it's still a work in progress. I write blogs every day about the industry. So after 45 years of doing this, I still enjoy what I do, and I hope to do it for many more years.
Nice. It's kind of makes me think of the first internet that was ever created. I don't know if you're, aware that was CERN. They made an intranet, and there's how their own employees were able to talk to each other and share information quicker about their own
Hmm.
industry. So it's really kind of cool that you took that early on and actually just scaled it out for an industry amongst the people that you were talking about. It actually was like it's core internet actually in a way what you were doing. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
So
that's essentially what you would call the print for pay hotel, that sort of forum.
yeah, it's a forums based community, and it's also got, how can I say, a blog format
Mhm.
as well. So average, I'm probably writing uh, four to five, 4 to 5 blogs every week that I post on the site that
Nice.
go out to my members. And again, it's all about
Mhm.
sharing information and driving traffic to my site because now I have to make sure that my advertisers are getting traffic.
Oh yeah.
So it's almost like a catch 22 with that.
Yeah, I was actually even thinking, that sounds like ripe for a, AI chatbot to help get that information quicker too. Although it might hurt your page views, though, so maybe that'll hurt the advertisers in a way since it's too easy to get the information. But interesting,
Right.
interesting, spot. That's very good. I actually wanted to ask about, one of the transitions you had to do with your company with pivoting and such. But you kind of did touch on that is with that new copying. Because when you entered, you said you were with bonded paper. Was that the paper that had to be separated? You had to fan it out every time because of
Yeah,
the electrostatic
that's
charge.
still bond paper, and that's
Yeah.
still what's used today. It
Mhm.
was about 1997, 1998. The industry was just making a transition. We call those copiers prior to 1998 analog
Mhm.
copiers. So there was nothing digital about them. They could not print. It was all an analog process to make a copy. HP developed, I think, 97, 96, launched their first laser printer. And the only difference between a laser printer and an analog copier is instead of using a mirror and a lens to project the image onto what they call a photoconductor, it was using a laser beam to project the image onto the photoconductor. So you were then able to take documents from the PC, Word document, Excel. I believe back then it was Word Perfect, and you were out
Yeah,
actually
WordPad.
able to uh, send them to a laser printer. And the copy machine industry saw this change, and in 19 like 97, 98, they started making hybrid machines that were somewhat analog but somewhat digital that they could print and copy. Shortly thereafter, the machines, they started making machines that they were able to scan devices. And by a few years, probably by 2001, 2002, all of the machines had made that transition from analog machines to digital machines. Now, mind you, keep in mind that all the salespeople at that time, we only knew the analog process. We didn't even have laser printers in our office. We didn't have scanners in our office. We had typewriters, and we had little Rolodex machines that was our CRM. So we all had to make that transition on learning, okay, what the hell is the internet? What's a network? What's a print driver? What do you mean they can scan to a location? What location? So there was a great learning process. Another reason why my forums were so successful back in the early 2000s, because we were all, as salespeople, we were all clamoring for information.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like it's going on more or less today too with all the AI. People looking for good AI information, and it's hard to find right now. A lot of people are just putting out the first thing that they can think that's valuable, and then it's just pay me for it.
Right.
So I just had a question in my head. What was it here? Yeah, so you had to make some pivots. I mean, you just mentioned like three different major changes in the technology. That what did the business have to go through to, I guess, capitalize on that? Was it a whole new sales strategy, whole new campaign? Obviously the learning curve that you had mentioned.
Um, Not really, because every business still needed a copy machine,
Mhm.
whether it was analog or whether it was digital. The
Was there a
paper
big rush
paper
to upgrade though when these came out, or they could?
When it was digital, yeah, because there was a ton of advantages you could
Mm,
sell to the client.
okay.
They weren't able to print before. Now they could print. They weren't able to scan before. Now they could scan. So a lot of people who had those manual workflows as salespeople, we would identify that you've got a paper-based process right now, and this digital process of printing right to the machine or taking documents that you have and scanning and distributing them is going to save you quite a bit of money. So the sales were always there, and the sales were always popular because there was always a return on investment for the client, because of the workflows from the 80s and 90s were all paper based. We didn't realize at some point that digital process would get us to the point where, oh, all of a sudden now companies aren't making as many prints as they
Hmm,
used to.
that's
And we
interesting. Yeah,
actually had that experience during COVID, during the shutdowns. Print volumes probably dropped off
yeah. I've noticed a
70%.
big push for e-statements from financial institutions. They're
Yep.
really trying to get people into that a lot more.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
And the
paper.
question is,
Ton.
how about they ask you, okay, we're going to give you, do you want to get your e-statements,
Mhm.
right? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I take an e-statement, but since you don't have to print anymore, are you going to give me a discount on my bill?
Yeah, print, mail. Should get a couple bucks.
Right. Sure, get a couple bucks here or
In fact,
there.
now they're doing the opposite. Actually, they'll charge you for the print and the piece and the print statement and the mail.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The banks,
As
huh?
COVID was tough, we probably only got back 80% of the volume that we lost.
Mhm.
So the emails, the digital process, all these new software that came out gave us an industry that was not growing anymore, but is actually contracting. But
Although we have
good
some,
for,
good.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, it sounds like there's a couple upgrades, I guess, or new transitions down the pipeline. We'll talk about in just a second. They wanted to mention one thing you did just say that these companies back then were able to upgrade to the new hardware, right? And then they could have a whole new list of capabilities that saves them time, money, and various other benefits.
Correct.
And definitely doesn't sound like that's something that's out of the ordinary. It sounds like that's happened dozens of times in our lifetime, and just happened in your industry, is happening in all industries right now with AI and the software and most, in
Correct.
my opinion, the no coding workflows. Everyone
No
now, if
code,
they
low
have a
code.
yeah, exactly. If anyone has like a decent understanding of that, they essentially can now code and make software and then do all these things that computers can do and actually use them to their fullest ability, which
Yeah.
is just huge. I mean, I don't think there's very few people that are walking around that even can really use a computer for a computer's purpose. They're just using it for Word or surf Facebook and go to the forum.
Right. I
And
was
as a
in a
whole,
conversation this morning, and the gist of part of that conversation, it was a meeting on Zoom, and one person had a comment that everything is going up. What's changed in business? Everything is going up. There's more fees. There's the cost of doing business is going up. Insurance. It's just a never-ending increase. And what can business? He didn't ask what can businesses do. He just said, how do businesses? How can I say work through all those landmines? Right,
mhm,
of prices increasing, and we're not able to increase our prices that much because it's then going to put us at a disadvantage. And finally, at the end, I had to speak up and I had to say, hey, businesses who are experiencing all of that need to look to technology
mhm,
to reduce their costs because there's a lot of amazing technology out there that it can actually reduce a company's costs,
yeah.
whether it's in AP, AR, workflows, AI. But the problem is, and I don't know if you see it, but a lot of times you'll call somebody, you'll kind of try to get through to somebody, and they won't even speak to you.
Yeah, it's that reptilian brain comes up, right? Because it's something they don't understand, they
Oh,
don't
they're
know
just
about,
trying to
and they
sell me.
don't
Yeah, they're
want to
just
get
trying to
scared
sell
by
this
it
whole thing.
sometimes.
No, no, we're trying to help you.
A lot of
We've
times,
got.
I mean, I might add regulation to that as well, especially with the new administration. There's a lot of new changes going on, which means you have to change, and then changes means typically a cost is associated with it. So that's another big challenge. And I'm right there with you. Nonprofits, I do a lot of nonprofit work, and I talk to a lot of organizations, and all of them just got about a third of their budgets cut from the NJ state budget, as well as the big beautiful bill, and then all the new federal grants that are going to be chopped down. And the amount of people that are talking about like, how do we get this money back? How do we get these grants to come back? How do we make a new program from the federal government? There's all of that was the talk, and no one mentioned how do we cut costs? How do we apply AI and make workflows and make new software,
Mhm.
new processes to reduce our spend and reduce the time cost? And there's a PhD doctor really high up with AI technologies and such. I don't know him too much, so I can't really say how factual what he said was, but it made sense that about 60% of processes could probably be automated today, and that they're not being automated more because they don't people that are in charge don't want to necessarily, don't want to go through the work to make it. But it's not that they can't be. So I kind of join you in that sort of argument that we probably could surf these types of costs and such a lot better with technology, but it would also make a major change in the way we manage our businesses
I
and
understand.
what we're looking on to how we're going to innovate.
But
Which,
sometimes change is good.
I mean,
Change.
change is
Swing.
necessary always. There's never been a time it's not around. So why is it's weird how much and how often businesses want to just hold on to the status quo because it
Status
just
quo.
seems futile, right?
But just keep doing what we're doing. So our
It's just
industry is
changing, right?
kind of like that because we know prints are going down every year.
Mhm,
People aren't printing as much as they used to, and that's our planned obsolescence. That's the tail of our business. Meaning that if you get a copy machine, you're going to make prints and you're going to spend additional money with us because you're going to need either a maintenance agreement or you're going to need parts or you're going to need toner for the machine, et cetera, et cetera. But that tail is now winding down for our industry.
interesting. Yeah, I definitely wanted to touch on, what are the challenges going on in office technology. So it sounds like the volume of prints is going down, but of course the maintenance and service still remains the same, or the cost of it's going up, as you just mentioned. So that's not a good balancing act right there. Is there anything else going on that's a challenge right now in the office technology print?
No, just the printer going down, but it is a huge market. I mean, I think the worldwide amount of pages printed a year is 2 trillion. pages. But so if it loses 3 to 5% a year, it's really, not going to affect that 2 trillion
Still
a
plenty to
lot.
go around, huh?
Yeah. But however, the next COVID, again, when we dropped out of COVID, we lost 20%. So if we have another COVID, who knows? I mean, we're going to lose 20% of what we have.
Mhm.
That's never going to come back, because a lot of those technologies were developed during COVID
Yeah.
to make businesses more, um, reduce their costs, put new technologies in, et cetera, et
And a
cetera.
little more hands free, right? Because less people were, were in the office.
Right, right.
Now, you did
Less
mention
people.
staffing way in the beginning when you got into the staffing is kind of an issue. Is that still an issue? Is a lot of people going into office technologies nowadays?
So,
Is it got some
so
intrigue? Or,
we lost a lot of people during COVID
Mhm.
because we couldn't sell a lot of machines because there was nobody in the office. So salespeople and technician wise, companies were laying off people. Our company didn't lay off anybody, but what was that word? What were they all? They were laying them off, but there was another
oh, there were
terminology.
furlough.
They were giving them furloughs, right? And at that point in time, some of the techs and salespeople said, "Well, you're going to furlough me? I'll just jump into a different industry." Right. So a lot of the people who had been in the industry as salespeople or technicians jumped out of that industry, got more into IT, maybe more into cybersecurity, networks, and that's true of the salespeople and the technicians.
Did telecom ever take some people, like wireless and stuff like that, or is that not
No,
had much overlap?
telecom was bigger like 15 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, we don't
Yes,
see a
FiOS
lot of
came
people.
out.
Yeah, I see a lot of people going into IT, cybersecurity,
Hmm. Those are definitely
IT
growing
technicians.
fields.
Right.
Well, something we were talking about a little bit before, and I think this is something you're going into now. We were talking about with adding robotics now to office technology, which does sound really almost like a obvious idea. The way you kind of posted it, the way you kind of portray it. And I've also watched your podcast. So let me mention that, and I'll definitely link it in the video to what you guys talk about. Because you have a little group that talks about office technologies, and you had a video that was talking about the robotics that might be adding into the office. Um,
Right.
yeah, do you want to touch on that? Because you mentioned the humanoid as well as like a kind of a desk robot, a moving desk robot.
Yeah. So, everything I've read by 2035,
Hmm?
we're going to be mass market for humanoids. Humanoids for B2B or B2C type companies. Humanoids right now range from anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000. They're still very, very expensive. By 2035, and with the advancement of ChatGPT and LLMs, other artificial intelligence, that price is probably going to be in that 8 grand to 20 grand range for a humanoid.
Mhm.
So we started, me and a couple other guys have been in the industry for quite a while. We started a consortium. We want to, because we understand what's going on with our print industry. We understand that it's slowly dying. So if you own a business, and you have your kids involved, your grandkids involved as a dealer owner, what's your legacy going to be in 20 years? What legacy are you leaving? What kind of
Hmm.
company are you going to leave them? Right? Are you
Hopefully,
going
a
to leave them?
self-running company. Yeah.
You're still involved in print and you're involved in managed IT, but managed IT isn't all it's cracked up to be as well, right? It doesn't have a long tail like the copier industry did with all the extra stuff that businesses have to buy to keep that copy machine running. Although Windows is doing a good job at saying, okay, Windows 10 is what we're getting rid of Windows 10 in October, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's again phased out. Well, the
Yeah, that's
support
getting
for it
phased out. So a
stops.
lot of
Yeah.
companies have got to phase out they got
You
to
gotta
get
go to
new
Windows
servers,
11,
got to
which
get
means they
better
have to hire an
computers.
IT guy to
Right,
change all his computers over because they're not doing that
right, right.
stuff.
And with probably in 5 more years, it'll be Windows 11.
About as all the patents start to run out. That's when the new
Yeah,
Windows comes out.
yeah. So our industry is facing crossroads because our technicians are getting older that fix copiers.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to be a copier technician because there is no career path in being a copier technician. It's not a job that's going to pay you $100,000 a year. And what do you need to make nowadays, right? In
Hmm.
order to survive, especially in our marketplace, right?
Yeah,
In our megalopolis, right? It's
yeah. It's about 72,000 is kind of what I figure. I mean, there's a metric I came across for I think rentals actually. It's for a lot of like large rental companies. You need to be able to prove that the person taking the lease has about 3 times as much as as their rent for their income. So if typical rent of like a single bedroom apartment about $2,000, which isn't too far fetched or anything. 3 times that you're looking at 6. Do that times 12. If you're not doing $72,000 a year, you can't really even afford to get a single bedroom apartment.
right,
Like that's
right,
it's a lot higher than people will expect. That's your level of being able to take care of yourself.
right. So our idea is to bring
Yeah.
robots to the copier channel so that they can sell and support robots and bring the copier channel to the robot OEMs.
Mhm.
Because right now, a lot of the robot OEMs, they don't have a channel. They figure if we build it, people will come. And if you go on a lot of robot websites and you see some of the robots on there, they don't have many options. They don't state, it's hard to find warranty information. It's hard to find support information. What happens when you buy a robot it breaks? Maybe it loses a foot, it loses a finger, something. Who's going to service these things?
Mhm.
No company is going to make a robot that will last forever. They'll make robots that'll last for 5 years, 7 years. They may change in order to get the price down. Maybe robots are only going to last 3 years. Maybe there's going
Mhm.
to be more wearable parts in a robot. So we see an opportunity for our industry to start making a transition that, hey, we're still going to sell copy machines, but as a dealer, because we know we deal with on-site service, we deal with SLAs. We know what it's like to update firmware. We know what it's like to make a copy machine communicate with the network. We're doing this already, and this is what the robot manufacturers need.
Mhm.
Because if they want to put out masses of robots, there's going to need to be a service and support industry behind it. And a lot of these robot companies now, they're getting tons of venture capitalist money. What they want to do is they just want to get market share. That's all they're concerned about, is getting market share. But that market share could go poof when people find out that they can't get the type of support they need or type of service that they need. So we're getting together. We've already got a couple of robot OEMs involved in our consortium. We've got one copier OEM involved in our consortium. And right now, we've got a handful of dealers. We're looking to get to 50 dealers by the end of the year, office equipment dealers that want to start saying, we need an internal robotics plan, right? We don't have to be selling robotics right away,
Mhm.
but we need to maybe get one for our office and start training the brain of that robot. When they start training the brain of that robot, they're going to own their IP. And at some time in the future, that IP may translate into future dollars. So that's one plan option that dealers are going to have. But the other option is that they can hook up with some of these robotic manufacturers right now that are looking to sell more robots, right? Robots like Unitree, Tesla. There's a lot of service robots around right now that do mop floors, they clean bathrooms.
I seen one
They,
doing laundry the other day, which people wanted that from
I
the
saw that
get
one
go of AI.
very, very
I want that one.
gingerly folding it, right? Yeah.
They can do it as
But,
slow as
but
it wants, as long as I'm not doing it.
But that's what mass market's going to be by
Mhm.
2035. For $20,000, you can have a humanoid in your home that's going to take out the garbage. It
Actually,
might
probably less, right? Because I mean, in printing right now, it's usually a monthly type of rental, right? Isn't it? So they probably want to have the same type of model, I would think.
correct. So
Yeah.
one of the other models that we want to be these OEMs, the robots, to lease their
Mm.
robot like you lease a car, right?
Yeah.
After 5 years, the lease is over, trade it in, get something new. So if you look at $1,000 robot, that's $400 a month. It's
What are the
not a
printers
lot of
right now?
money for everything that a robot could do. They do the laundry, clean the house.
Including several things that you might, depending on your staff, might not be able to do. 'Cause I think in that podcast I was referencing most profound thing that I noticed is also one of the most simplest things, and just picking something up that's heavy. I mean, there's a lot of staffs out there that are aging workforce and can't do a 50 pound, 100 pound box, which
Right.
not a problem for the robot,
Yeah.
not at all.
And the anybody picking up that weight in the office is their company is more susceptible to
Hmm.
injuries, right? Liability,
Hmm.
somebody getting hurt, workman's comp, the workman comp plan goes up. So we want to bring our other idea, and probably our biggest idea is we want to bring an office supply robot to the office. Humanoid, we think it could be done within the next 3 to 5 years. And that humanoid will be able to go to the supply cabinet, go get paper for the copier, go get toner for the copier, go get, hey, I need a cup of coffee. Can you go get me a cup of coffee so I'm not away from my desk? Every minute at my desk, I'm making money.
Hmm.
Not Uber, DoorDash came here, go down to the front door, go get my food, go bring my food to me, take care of the recyclables, right?
Yeah, I mean, you
Um,
just mentioned
take
about an
out the
hour worth of just
garbage,
random things you have to do on a regular basis, and
right? So we
robots.
came up with this
Yeah.
thing. It's called 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes per employee a day.
Right.
If a humanoid can save you 10 minutes of being away from your desk or being away from your work, you times that price by 50 or so people. Businesses based on a robot now that costs $65,000, each company that invests will get an $8 return for every dollar spent.
And I'm like still shocked that the MIT report said 95% of companies can't find an AI pilot that'll make money. I think they're looking for too
Really?
high up level type things when they need to be looking at a simple process that can just get automated and save those 5 minutes a day. That's all it needs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got a proof of concept now that we're showing in November in Tampa,
Mm.
and basically, it's a small $3,000 robot, but it's got an NVIDIA chip in it, right? And we put an LLM in it, and we're training that brain to go do simple stuff. Go to the supply cabinet, go get me a toner cartridge, go get me a waste toner cartridge, go get me a staple cartridge. And for right now, just bring it to the copy machine. That's all we want you to do, right? To
Mhm.
show that the proof of concept, it can be done now with a simple, inexpensive robot. However, this is just a starting point. We're hoping that people will take that idea and evolve on that. Like we're training the brain. We've put a couple service manuals into the brain. And
Mhm.
then we're going to have a conversation with the robot saying, my copy machine came up with a service code 222. What's wrong? The robot will answer rather than getting a tech on the phone. Robot, is that something we can fix or do we need to call service? The robot will respond depending upon the code, right? Then at that point in time, the robot will then ask the client if if so the robot say, would do you want me to engage a support ticket to your service company?
Yeah, that alone is another 10 minutes saved too, right? Yeah, the use cases are
Correct.
definitely kind of endless. Even without getting into like really complex tasks, it's still pretty significant. 'Cause, I mean, we hire people right now for interns. We hire people now for just mail clerks and run errands, and it's just that can be done robots now.
Right.
Even if it's, and I don't want to start talking about the job loss scare, but like even if that one person that would have been running around to do those errands is now just controlling the 6 to 10 robots that are doing it, there's still a job there. Just now that one person can
Yeah.
do more,
And,
which
and, and a
businesses
lot
all
of
over the place are saying they need to do more, right?
they need to do more with us, and a lot of businesses
Yep.
can't find people for some of those. So what we call those jobs, those are those mundane jobs
Mhm.
that nobody wants. Why can't a
Or the
robot
one you
do?
take that I guess, or the one you take when you're getting the skills, I guess, to move up to something
Correct.
higher.
But you're
Yes.
right. All of the additional work that comes from now having a fleet of let's say 500 million robots in the workforce, there's going to be a lot.
Yep. I mean, this is all everything that's happening right now has happened sometime before, and we see it in lots of podcasts too. I was just listening to a Ray Dalio podcast, and he literally talked about the printing press and such, and how information's changed, and it again has often caused a loss of jobs, then a huge gain of jobs in a whole different
Yep.
field. So that seems to be what's happening, right now. Pretty excited to hear what you had to share about office technology. Like I said, it's not something that a lot of people get to come across. At least not in my case, I haven't. And I got to talk to a lot of hundreds of business owners and such, but I haven't gotten to talk to a print guy, a nice office technology guy. And yeah, it's very exciting where it's heading. And actually, Lee, from someone that's a little, I'll admit, a little critical about AI and such technology myself to try to make sure it helps and benefits people and doesn't cause all this crazy doomsday stuff. It sounds like it's heading in the right direction too, where it's meant to help and not hurt. So it's really awesome, talk.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. We do have one of our technicians who always fights me tooth and nail because you're gonna you're gonna make people lose their jobs. They go, no, no, we're gonna create more
Hmm.
jobs.
I mean, right now the print industry is kind of destined for that as it is, since it's dwindling. So you need to find that
Yep,
next stage, that next phase, and it sounds very promising of that, even if it's not so much the sales of it, but just the service of it. Because make a huge great point where these robotic manufacturers need someone to service it afterwards. It can't just get delivered one day and then it's going to be good for the rest of the next 5-10 years or however long you have
yep.
it, and that's not going to happen.
Right. Well, you've
Yeah.
got stuff delivered to your house, and you open up the box or turn it on, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
what's next?
Oh, and also you did mention, did want to touch on when you train this bot with, your information, your IP, it kind of becomes yours. And that's been a major thing that I kind of push with genuine technologies because everyone will have that AI model that's the same right out of the box. But once you add your information, your instructions, if you already know what you're doing, you're fine tuning, it's then your AI model that no one else is going to have.
That's correct.
So it's going to be the same way with the robots too. Yeah. Well, it's definitely a really interesting talk. I'm looking forward to seeing more as this all develops. Definitely, and following you on LinkedIn. Do you have Instagram or YouTube? Any other social medias you
No,
want people
I'm
to
not
follow?
big into Instagram. I'm using X, and I use LinkedIn. I probably use
Yeah,
LinkedIn the most.
and you have your website, right? Printforpayhotel.com.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
printforpayhotel.com or
So
the letters P for photel.com.
p4bhotel.com. Yep. So
Right.
there you have the ways to stay in touch with what's going on with office technology.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's pretty very interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing this all develop. And thanks for doing what you do, getting started with what you do, so I can have someone that'll help me keep up to date with it.
absolutely. So, hey, I'd like to thank you very much for the invitation. I had a lot of fun with this, and maybe we can do another one sometime down the road.
Yeah, you and me both. Definitely always enjoy talking technology and definitely robotics. It's not something I get to spend too much time in just yet because I'm focused on the software, but it's definitely something that's coming down the line, and it's not going to be something we can ignore as business owners for sure. Yeah, thanks again for the time, Art.